and welcome. I'm Lynn of Lynn Stitches Creates, and welcome to my Flosstube channel about counter cross stitch and the project bags I make. It is Monday, June 24th, 2024. This is episode 126. Welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for joining me again. And if you're new, welcome. I hope you like what you see, maybe get a little bit enabled. Subscribe, hit the like, all the things. It's been a week. Not quite. I filmed Wednesday morning last week. But mostly recovered from my trip and StitchCon. So I have a little bit of stitching to show, and then I'll talk about my trip to Norway and Iceland at the end, so that if you're only here for the stitching, you can head on out. Last Wednesday was the 19th. It was Juneteenth. I did not get out, unfortunately. The way things just worked, I did not have a chance to get out my Juneteenth project, but I think I might do that on Sunday, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But because it was the 19th, which is Talk Like a Pirate Day in September, and our monthly meeting for those of us stitching Glendon Place's Poltergeist Pirates. So, we had our chat. It was a lot of fun. I made some good progress. Here's where I started. And this is where I am now. I've almost got the dragon figurehead finished. I filled in all of this, so there's still some more to do in here, back to about here, and then I don't know, I might go down and do water just because this is a lot. I do want to finish the mast at some point, and then there's another one that goes this way. I have to refresh myself on their names, but yeah, coming along slowly but surely, coming along. And that's, you know, this is a project for the long haul. This is not a small project. As I show you each month, this is the fabric. There is a lot, and it is going to be filled. So I am happy with that. In August, I have not talked to the others that are stitching it, but chances are in August we will stitch at the Black Needle Society in-person retreat, because that is where we all started it 2 years ago. I made a lot of progress on my Forbidden Fiber Co. Ever After Sal. It's based on the Drew Barrymore movie Ever After. And that is where it was. And here's where it is now. So I finished block 3. I finished block 4. I got, this is block 5, this is 6, and this is 7. So block 5 is all complete. Today was the release of the newest one, and I'll put what that looks like there. And I believe this is the last large block. The very last one, number 16, goes across the length, but it's not very wide, so I'm thinking that'll be pretty easy to do. This one has a lot of lettering, though there's angel wings in it, and that is going to take up some time to stitch. But I'll pull that out hopefully tomorrow night. I'll get some stitches in on that. I don't know if I'm going to stitch tonight or not. I've been sewing today, and I kind of want to keep my momentum. I'm working on the project bags for Bobby of Pumpkin Creek Primitives horror box for Halloween. It's on sale now. If you're into horror movies, this is definitely the box for you. It is not the box for me, but Bobby's got it pulled together. She has created some really cool patterns. I have seen them. They're very cool. She's put some sneak peeks on her Instagram page. Athena has a t-shirt that she's designed for those that are really into horror. That's an add-on to the box. My project bags are included. Athena's t-shirt is an add-on. There's some other really cool things, creative makers that are in the box. Well worth the price. Go check out Pumpkin Creek Primitives for more information. The last thing that I stitched on was my Dragons, a Field Guide, salve by Climbing Goat Designs. I am all caught up with this. This I'll put where we were last time, and I have begun the June Dragon, which is Fafnir, and Fafnir is a Germanic Nordic dragon in Legends. So he is purple in here, and I've got one foot done that's holding a ring. These are his teeth and his head, so there'll be another foot over here, tiny feet you can't see yet, but yeah. So I've got, I think according to Markup XP, I'm 35% done with him. He's not a big one this month, which is really nice. I had hoped to sit and stitch him all day Saturday, and that just got away from me. I was catching up with Forbidden Fiber Co. And then I did start him yesterday, Sunday, but I didn't stitch on him all day long. So yeah, so 3 things. Good progress on everything. I'm pleased. So yeah, so I don't really have any haul. My Just Cross Stitch Halloween edition magazine came in the mail on Saturday. I'm sure there are other Flosstubers that will be doing the flip through. Isn't that adorable? I think he's so cute. There's some cute cats in here. Chances are I'm going to give this to Ashley because I don't really do Halloween. That's not really my thing. Christmas, that's my thing. But here are some of the patterns. So if you do not subscribe to Just Cross Stitch magazine, you can pick up this issue at your local needlework store or Joann's. They should be in stock now. So there are some of the patterns in there. Don't forget, I got an extra copy of the summer Just Cross Stitch magazine. I am giving it away, but you have to go to last week's episode 125 to find out what the magic word is and comment on 125, not on this one, to be entered. And I will draw the winner next week, and that is a U.S. residents only. If you have not heard, the Naptime Stitcher has come up with a game board again for the Olympics. The Olympics start Friday, July 26th. That's the opening ceremony. Goes through August 11th, which is the closing ceremony. And on her Instagram page, she's got a whole list of things that you can do, a whole challenge for the Summer Olympics. And she's also got a, I think I've got cat fur in my eyelash, sorry. She's also got a downloadable booklet. So it has all these things, but in a nice spaced calendar so that you can actually write what you work on. So things like for the opening ceremony, work on a new start or something you started in 2024. For the Parade of Nations, stitch something patriotic for any country. on the 28th, stitch something related to summer. So just some fun ideas to challenge you. July and August for the Summer Olympics. I know when I was growing up, the Summer Olympics, Winter Olympics, whenever they were on, that was like the only sports. My dad was not into sports. He's really where I got my love of musical theater from. But Olympics, my whole family, we all watched the Olympics. And so that's my nice segue into my trip. So my husband and I, we joined his oldest brother and his wife and his sister, who is the youngest of the family, and her husband. We flew from Cincinnati to Boston, Boston to Iceland, Iceland to Copenhagen, where we got on our cruise ship. So we met up with the family in Copenhagen. My husband's brother and his wife went to Copenhagen 2 days early, and they did some touring, whereas the other four of us, we all met on the day that the cruise ship was leaving. Had a good time just walking around Copenhagen a little bit that morning before we got on the cruise. We were all tired. I mean, we had been up technically all night. So, when we arrived 6:30 Copenhagen time, it was really 12:30 midnight our time. So we stayed up all day, and it was a little rough that first day. But we got on the cruise ship, got settled, had a good time, went to dinner, saw the show, all the things. Next morning, we were in Oslo, Norway. If you've never been to Norway and seen the fjords, it's beautiful country. My husband got a tour through Viator for us. We used Viator all through Australia, which worked out great. He checked out all the reviews, and we never had a bad tour with them. So we got a driver that took the six of us around different highlights of Oslo, and I'll put in some pictures. The Opera House is really cool. It's on a slant, and you can walk up the outside of it. There's a really cool glass statue, glass art sculpture that's made to look like an iceberg in the middle of the river there. We went to, my brother-in-law started out his career as a sports writer, ended as a newspaper editor, but his main thing when we were in Oslo, he wanted to go to the ski jump. And if you've watched the Winter Olympics, you've seen them do the ski jump, where they come down and they just go off the end and they're flying as far as they can across to get the longest, landing. Well, it's crazy, when you see it on TV. But to see it in person is ridiculous. It's like, it's one of those things, like, you can see where the men were out drinking and bored and like, let's go down this really big hill and see how far we can go. It's crazy. It's crazy. And the bottom where they land, there's like hardly any stopping room. I don't know how they stop in time before hitting and just going out the other side. It's crazy. But so that was, I was kind of, sports. But yeah, that was worth the trip to see. We did another stop where we were overlooking the city. Another stop to a waterfall that's actually kind of in the middle of Oslo and was originally where they built in the late 1700s, early 1800s, the beginning of the industrial age, where they built all their mills or water wheels for the factories that were doing making linens and things. Beautiful, beautiful area, and it's all craft breweries now. So, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous spot. We had a glorious day that day. It was in the 70s. You know, for Oslo, you get 60s. So to be in the 70s, it was really gorgeous. And if I've forgotten someplace that we visited that day, I want to say there's someplace else that we went and I just can't remember. It was fun to see, since skiing is the big thing, there were people out and they were like rollerblade skis that they had their ski poles and they had, if you know what a rollerblade is, where it's the four wheels. Well, it's probably about that long, but it's supposed to be skis. So some of the hills we were going up, people were coming down and kind of shushing as if they're skiing on these things, and they were going up the hills as well. So keeping those muscles going during the summer months. The next day after Oslo, we were at sea. We had a nice day, just visiting. My sister-in-law and I, my husband, his brother's wife, and my sister-in-law's husband, they went to beer tasting. That is not something that I do, and Mary is not a drinker. So we went and played trivia, and we played trivia, just team trivia, and then later, a couple hours later, we played, it was team trivia, but it was speed trivia is what they called it. So you had only so much time to answer each question, but we had a great time. And then that night, I started with a fever and a cough. And I was miserable. About 2 o'clock, my husband is playing on his laptop, playing a computer game. He found a computer game. He put it in his laptop. I was like, "You're not bringing the laptop." "Yeah, I'm bringing the laptop." I'm like, ugh, because I knew what would happen. So he's still up playing on his computer. I get up. It's like 2 in the morning. He's like, "Are you okay?" Geez, thank you for noticing. So I ran a fever probably half the next day. And the next day we were in our second stop in Norway. And it was a small little town. They had a stable of fjord horses, which was described as the horses in Frozen 2, which I didn't really remember horses in Frozen 2 other than the one that she creates out of water. But maybe that's what she was talking about. And they also had a replica of a Viking ship. Couldn't go on that. I tried to get up. It wasn't, because the port was so small, we couldn't dock. So everything was tenders, the rescue boats they use as a tender and take people. So because we weren't on a tour, I didn't worry about getting up. But about 11, I woke up and I thought, oh, I should get up and get dressed so we can go into town. Closed my eyes. Next thing I know, it's 1:30. And, by that point, to tender in, we really weren't going to get anywhere. And the stables with the fjord horses, they said, "Oh, it's not that far. It's like 2 kilometers, which isn't that far. My husband and I walk like that all the time." But it was up a hill. I was like, the way I'm feeling, there is no way I can walk up a hill. Because even my breathing. So I gave up. I just went to sleep. I think we finally ordered something from, um, the room service. I had some soup. I didn't even really finish that. I was just exhausted. So the next day was a sea day again, and I spent most of the day in bed. I got up, I think, for lunch. No, I got up for breakfast. I tried to be human, and after breakfast I went back to bed, and I didn't get out of the room again that day. Thursday was our first day in Iceland. We stopped in Akurey, and on the way on the sea day, we had snow, which, you say, oh, you're going above the Arctic Circle. Oh, it's Iceland. Yeah, but it's summer, and they do actually have some summer. It's not what we might consider summer. It's definitely not the hellacious heat wave we've been having. But when we got to the second stop in Iceland, they're like, yeah, this is unusual. We can't remember the last time it snowed in June. So I think they said maybe it was 10 or 15 years since the last time it had snowed in June. Now, whether the volcano going off had something to do with it or not really sure. So Akurey, we didn't have a tour for that. But it was docked, so we walked into town. We stopped at a bakery because baked goods in other countries, I love to try them. They had, I'll put in the picture, there was like this cinnamon roll covered in chocolate that was bigger than my husband's hand. Then we walked to like a little souvenir shop and got some things for the family. And then we were going to walk to a church, which was very unusual. And I got to the bottom of the hill and I looked up the hill and I'm like, click, I've seen it. It's like, I can't walk up that hill. I'm sorry, I'm done. I was just exhausted again. And we got back to the ship and I went back to sleep. The next day, we had a tour. We were going to, I'm trying to think of the name of the place, but where we stopped, we got on a bus. They took us out to, let's see, where did we go first? We stopped at an area where there had been an avalanche and it took out a bunch of houses, killed 15 or 17 people, including children, because it was January and it was like 5:30 in the morning. So they've not rebuilt in that area. They consider that, a danger area. So the town has moved like down the road. And then we went to a church and the youth pastor was there and he sang us some traditional Icelandic love songs, which was really nice. And then we went to this beautiful scenic area that, just the mountains and the waterfalls, and then there's all the sheep and goats with their kids and lambs on the hill nearby. It was spectacular. It was just beautiful. The wind had died down, so it wasn't as cold. It got up in the 50. Did it get to 50 or was it still in the 40s that day? The wind is really what, made it difficult. And then we stopped at an Arctic fox sanctuary. Arctic foxes are kind of the gophers of the U.S. If you live out in the West, that gophers are a farmer's nightmare. Well, Arctic foxes there. And they're so cute. But they didn't look very good when we were there because it's June and they're shifting from their winter coat to their summer coat. So the white one is shifting from white to gray for the summer, and then the brown one was shifting from the light brown to a chocolate brown. But we had tea and coffee and a snack there at the sanctuary, and then we went back to the ship. So that was a good day, and I was feeling better that day. I was feeling more alive. The next day was a sea day? No. Thursday, Friday, then Saturday, we got to Reykjavik, and that was the day we got off the ship. My husband's sister and her husband, they went on a tour through Reykjavik and then to the airport, and they flew out that day. We got a B&B, and we had a rental car, and it was a stick shift, which we all have driven stick shifts. We know how to do it. It's just been a while. So it was quite the challenge when my husband and his brother went to get it. And I guess it was a little scary at times. I guess my brother-in-law stalled out in the middle of an intersection and such. But they finally got the hang of it, so it was fine. But we traveled around Reykjavik. We went to the church, and we went to the lava show, which my brother-in-law was all about the lava show, and I'm thinking, oh, this sounds so touristy. But you know, it was really cool. They had the whole setup. They've got a furnace that's fueled by the gases that come off of the trash heaps. It's not the right word. I'll think of it later, I'm sure. But the fumes, the gases that come from the decomposing garbage, and that's how they fuel. So they recycle, technically, those gases and to fuel the furnace. And then they've got volcanic rock from not the volcano that's currently going off, but from a different one that went off, I believe, in 95. So they melt down in the furnace, these volcanic rocks, and then they have the lava comes out during the show. And she talked about how, you know, these lava fields, there's a lot of times, if you follow Ice Stitcher, Erla, she's gone out when the volcano's been going off and gone picnicking to watch the volcano erupt. That's something they do in Iceland. There's certain ones that are considered tourist eruptions, so that, you know, people just go and watch and hang out. It's not necessarily considered safe, is what the girl was telling us, but they do it. So what she was showing was how quickly it cools. There was a block of ice, too, in the way of the lava. So it went over this ice block, steamed up, and then it turned black. And she's, well, you think, because it's black. And she hits it a little bit. And, you know, it's like if you've ever had creme brulee where the top has been, you know, with the flame and it hardens. But if you crack it, it's, you know, all creamy inside. It's not solid. So she cracked that black rock, and it's still molten not far under the surface. And she's got her temperature gun, and she's telling us, well, the temperature currently is still 500 degrees. So no, you couldn't walk on that. No, you couldn't touch it. That would be bad. But she was also sticking in her pole and pulling out these wisps, and she got these really cool, very fine strings. I forget, they're the hairs of somebody that she called it. So it ended up being a very cool show. We also went to a Viking museum, and it was all vignettes with mannequins of different famous people, how Iceland was settled by the Vikings, and people that were in power or famous throughout the ages. Let's see, I think they stopped. That was up until maybe 16 or 1700. So that's where that left off. But that was kind of interesting. And then, it was time to head out. We stayed overnight at a B&B. Next morning, we were supposed to go, on Saturday, we were supposed to go to the Blue Lagoon, which is a thermal spa. All the water's heated by thermal underground. But Blue Lagoon, the road was closed to it because of the volcano erupting. So we had to switch plans, and we got into Sky Lagoon, which is actually in Reykjavik. And it was gorgeous. The views were gorgeous. There's a 7-step thing where, you go, you shower, you get in the lagoon, you wander around in there. They have a bar, so we had drinks. And then you're supposed to go in a plunge pool that's ice cold. I put my 1 foot into my ankle, and I said, oh, no. No. Then you go into the sauna, and the sauna had this window, floor to ceiling, side to side, and so it looked like, you were just looking out at the ocean. But with me being still kind of sick, I could not take the heat of the sauna, and my lungs were just like, oh, no, this is bad. So you get out of the sauna, and then they give you a salt scrub that you scrub, your whole body. You shower after that, and then you go into it's a steam room, and that wasn't as bad for me. It was still very hot, which I don't want heat, but that was okay. I actually sat in there for a little bit, and you're supposed to be cleaning out your pores and all that kind of stuff. And then when you get done with there, you're supposed to go in the plunge pool, skip that again, and just went back in the lagoon. And so we were there hour and a half, 2 hours. By the time we did all those steps, and we had been in the lagoon for a while before we went in, I was just hot. We had gotten other drinks, and we're sitting, and they have like seats built in the pool, so you can stay, kind of up to here in the water, but I'm like getting out so that only my feet are in. I was just so hot. So we decided we were done. Went, showered, got dressed, and then we started to head for the airport because my husband and I were leaving that day. My brother-in-law and his wife weren't leaving till the next day. But on the way to the airport, we pulled off on the road that would have taken us to the Blue Lagoon, and had some views, not quite close up, but closer, of the volcano going off. We could see some of the lava coming down, lots of steam. It was interesting. And, there's all the rock formations and whatnot around nearby. And then we headed to the airport. And our airport experience, on the way to Copenhagen, we flew Delta Cincinnati to Boston. Then we flew Iceland Air, Boston to Reykjavik to Copenhagen. And we were lucky because my husband had put in bids. You could put in bids, and if it's accepted, you get moved up to first class. Both of those flights, we were really lucky, and the bids were accepted. So for not even half of what it would cost to fly first class. We flew first class. And that was amazing. I mean, talk about spoiled. We tried different gins of Iceland. Had good food, comfortable chairs, all the things. Very well looked after. Well, coming home, our bid was not accepted. So we were in economy. It was kind of like economy plus. So we weren't necessarily the lowest, but, they did not take care of us well on that flight. I had to go chase them down. They were coming around with drinks. My husband was having a low. He's diabetic. And they were coming, and next thing we knew, they were gone. So I had to get up and go find them and say, I really need some orange juice for him. I don't know. It was crazy. But we were already in a bad mood because when we got our boarding passes, when I checked in, there were 4 S's in front of my husband's name. I'm like, what's that? Turns out that if you have that, they are going to stop you and check you anytime you're going through security. So when we went through our first security check, they pulled him over and looked at all his stuff, which we're used to because his insulin is in like gel packs. So they always flag him for that. They always want to look at it. And fine, whatever. Well, we were getting our VAT tax refunded from one of the stores because we purchased enough. They gave us the form. And of course, that was before security. So he went back down, left all the bags with me. He went back down, coming through security. He's mad when he gets back to me. He's like, they checked me again. I'm like, what? I said, you didn't have anything. What did they do? He said, well, they wiped down my phone and tested it. I'm like, okay. So then there's like a different area that's passport control for flights to the States. So that's like D gates. So we went through there. They stamped our passports, all the things. We go to scan our boarding passes to go down to the gate area. Mine goes green, gate opens, his is red. And suddenly they're saying, sir, would you come over here, back here to this other room? I'm looking at, well, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? And they're like, oh, well, you can wait right there. There's no waiting area. It's just stand next to the stairs. So I'm waiting, and every now and then somebody else gets pulled, and somebody else gets pulled. And then other people are coming out. So all the people I was waiting with initially had gone, and there was a whole group of new people when my husband comes out, and he is livid. They went through everything. They pulled everything out. It's like, all right, well, let's go down to the gate. And in Iceland, they don't have, like, gate areas. There's chairs in the middle of the aisle, like the hallway that you walk down. And then there's a gate, and you line up against the wall. So we went down, we had some time. It's time to go over by our gate. They announced us to line up. So he's like, and he's furious. He's like, if they do this to me, if I get pulled again in Boston, I'm getting a rental car and I'm driving home. I am not going on the airplane, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, come on, John. We're not going to drive 14 hours from Boston to Cincinnati. We get to the gate again, scan the boarding pass. Mine is green, his goes red. So they're looking at his passport again and scanning it and like manually entering. What did they think between the time that the guys pulled everything out of his bag to the moment we got to our gate? What did they think he was picking up? I don't understand. Iceland, you're a beautiful country, but I doubt that we will ever go back after that experience trying to get out. It was crazy. So they're late loading the plane. They're late pulling back from the gate. We ended up late getting into Boston. We didn't have any trouble with passports. We got our luggage. And in Boston, there's terminals A, B, and they're all separate. But the international terminal and the terminal A that we were going out of have a walkway. So we walked as quickly as we could. We got there, tried to, self-check. I had already paid for our bags. We tried to do the self-check-in. It won't pull up. So we get to the window. There's like nobody at the Delta counters. And the guys are like, well, your bags might get on the plane and they might not. They might come in tomorrow. I'm like, I don't care. If they get there tomorrow, that's fine. Just get me on the plane. Where do we go for security? They're like, it's just down there. We get down there. TSA pre-check is closed. And there's a huge frickin' line. So I get out of line to go talk to an agent. Somebody else had gone to talk to her too. She's like, okay, well, just come. Well, then everybody in line is freaking out. Well, you can't let those people, because we're all waiting for this. There were like 4 flights at 8:20 or 8:40 that night. And that's what everybody in the line was. And they only had 2 people checking, your ID, and 2 people working the scanners. Well, at that point, that was John's breaking point. He says, bye, I'm going to go rent a car. I'm like, John, I'm not driving. He would not listen. I went through. Even though there's this one lady in my ear going, it's not fair. It's not fair. I'm sorry if you watch my channel. I was going. I get through. She looked at my ID. She said, she hands me a card because I'm TSA pre-check. She said, give this to them when you get into the x-ray. I handed it to them. I didn't have to go through the one, that you stand. I just went through the regular x-ray. Nothing wrong with my bags. I get out the other side. My plane is boarding because I was Comfort Plus. My area had already loaded, so I just went right up, got on the plane. So I'm like, okay, I'm on the plane. John's not. He's got a rental car because he did it while we were waiting online in Iceland because he was so mad. I'm like, what's going to happen to his suitcase? We checked 2 suitcases, one for him, one for me. I'm on the plane, he's not. Are they going to pull his bag? So I get on the plane. I fly back to Cincinnati. I get to baggage claim. And hallelujah, his bag is there too. So both our bags made it on the plane. They did not take his off even though he was not on the plane. Which someone in security may have issues with me telling this story. I don't know. But yeah, so I got home. My son picked me up. Got home about midnight, Sunday night. John got home about 8:30 Monday night. Because he did stop. He did stop at a hotel. He drove for a few hours until probably he'd cooled down enough to realize he was tired. Got a hotel for a few hours and then drove the rest of the way. So it was a nice trip. We had a bunch of bumps. We probably won't travel international for a while. I've got some other small trips coming up, some retreats, so there will be that. But he's in shows coming up. His next one is Oliver. It's a musical. So if you're interested in information about that, let me know if you're in the Cincinnati area, and I'll give you the information. He's got a pretty good part, so. But I think I've kept you long enough. Thank you for listening to all my ramblings. Whatever pictures I didn't put in, I'll put in at the end. I remembered that in Oslo, we went to the Fram Museum, and we went to the Kon-Tiki Museum. And if you know anything about those ships, it was pretty amazing. Kon-Tiki, it's the actual raft that they built, and you just walk around it. You can't go on it or touch it. The Fram is a ship that they built to go to the North Pole. It went twice, and it's meant to, instead of breaking the ice, it actually goes on top of the ice. So it went there twice in the late 1800s, and then it went to the South Pole. And it's been in this museum ever since it came back. They have kept it up. You can get on it and go down in the hold and see all the rooms and how big it is. It was amazing. I had never heard of it before, but it was really, really super cool. So, having said all that, 45 minutes of me, I think 30 of this has been me babbling. So, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. If you're interested in the Summer Just Cross Stitch, go back to last episode 125, find the word, comment there, and I will see you next Monday. Bye. Just a little wee lighthouse. Well, of course. Well, of course.